Out of all the new characters in Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, there was one that stood out to me the most. One that shares with us just how difficult and scary it can be to become a bigger body. This character is Riley. Now, while there is only a few notes from her, there is still a lot to uncover with her character. She represents hope, and when you're in a situation like hers, hope is all you really have. So let's uncover every detail we can about Riley and her past. Riley was a 12-year-old orphan girl that called Playcare home. What fascinates me the most about Riley is that she plays such a small role in the overall story. However, sometimes the smallest things can make the biggest impact. And Riley was an example of this. Even after her transformation, she lives by the same morals. Morals that would ultimately save others' lives. When we first learn about Riley, it's at the very beginning of the chapter. We enter the experiment graveyard with mountains of dead and even still alive toys. Considering this area is associated with death, it feels like direct foreshadowing for what's to come with Riley. Her story is presented in the form of journal entries. This notebook was given to her by one of the counselors and encouraged Riley to write her feelings, but to also make two lists. One with what was important to her then, and the other was for why. So with each note there are two lists, what's important and why. The first note we find is sitting on a barrel, and it tells us about when Riley arrived at Playcare and a bunch of details about her backstory. When she did first arrive, Riley didn't know what to expect. She didn't even know what she wanted it to be. She was given a room, a big pink bed, girly toys, and this journal. Interestingly though, Riley mentions how she feels too old for these things even though she's only 12. This sense of maturity in Riley is something we will see shine later on, so it's important. The staff would encourage Riley to talk with the other kids and make friends. However, this was challenging for Riley because she didn't know what to say to them. Most of the others had been at Playcare their whole lives, and as Riley says, they were young enough that they can't remember what they lost. This reminds us of just how young some of the orphans actually were. But remember, Riley is older, so she has memories of her past. Her parents loved, protected, and taught her. She then expresses how she doesn't know if the other kids even remember what that's like. They don't know what they don't have. But Riley does. She remembers a lot. This is slightly off-putting and makes you think about how a lot of the orphans were so young that all they knew was Playtime Co. This is also dark because it makes it easier for the company to take away their lives. They know nothing else. Riley would try and be nice to them, even if there wasn't much to say. But she preferred this, considering she was shy. Riley wrote down what was important to her at that moment. She notes how nice it was for the counselors to care enough about her to try to make her feel at home. This shows that the staff working with the kids did truly care about them. After all, they didn't know about the horrific acts that were taking place right beneath their feet. She also notes how it's important to try and get comfortable. This is her home now. How her life matters, since it can be lost so quickly, and her parents' lives mattered too. Why is this stuff important to her? Because Riley was scared. She notes how anything can happen in an instant and leave you with nothing. And because of that, she was scared that nothing matters. But she wants to feel happy again. And it's important to her that someone at Playcare cares that she feels at home, even if she knows she's not. This is incredibly sad. Clearly an accident happened that took the lives of Riley's parents. This explains why she is now at Playcare. But this accident has also shown Riley just how quickly life can be taken from you. And because of that, she is scared nothing matters. So it's important for her to have hope. Because right then, in that moment when she was writing this note, hope was all she had left. The second journal entry details how Riley was chosen for an experiment. 5 months following her arrival at Playcare, other kids would talk about being chosen, but Riley didn't understand what it meant, questioning if it was just being adopted. She notes what was important to her, figuring out if she even wanted to be adopted, and trying to feel what the other kids felt every day. Why? Well, if she was happy like them, maybe she would appreciate everything more. Maybe she would want to be chosen too. This reveals the orphans saw being chosen as getting adopted. Unbeknownst to them, it was quite the opposite. But this also tells us Riley was unhappy with her life. It's clear she missed her parents and didn't want a life where she would have to call other adults mom and dad. However, a month later, Riley was chosen. Now, she had interviews with couples, but considering how shy and quiet Riley was, she thought they wouldn't like her. She did get good test scores at the game station, but to outsiders, this doesn't translate to being a good kid. If couples didn't care about Riley's scores, someone else did. That someone was Playtime Co. meaning because Riley had good test scores and no other couples wanted her, she was chosen. Riley wrote a few notes before she left, although she was able to bring this journal with her. She notes what was important, trying to be the girl her parents raised and to live by their values so that a part of them lives through her. She continues with being good, staying happy, and making more friends. It's important that she gets used to her new home. She wants to grow up to help kids like her, and even start her own orphanage just like Elliot Ludwig did. Fill it with toys and good people. This has shown growth in Riley. She is happy now and wants to help other kids like her when she becomes an adult. Little did Riley know about the truth behind the very orphanage she wanted to mirror. Nothing could prepare her for the horrors she was about to encounter in her so-called new home. The third journal entry is when things take a dark turn. Riley takes to her notes after her transformation. What happened wasn't what she thought. She was not adopted. They took her not out, but under, deep underneath everything. She recalled getting a shot and falling asleep, then talks about remembering images. Her skin was opened up like flower petals. A doctor digging around inside of her and taking things out. She could feel his touch through her ribs and into the back of her spine. Riley heard a snap and everything was red. This details just how gruesome the experiments were, and worst of all, the kids seemed to remember parts of it. When Riley woke, everything hurt. She screamed and screamed for hours, but stopped when realized no one was listening. Riley then explains how she is not herself anymore. Her body is not her body. Her hands are not her hands. She would try to brush the hair she still felt on her shoulders, but touched nothing. She wasn't even able to separate her fingers even though she could feel them move. She expresses how it's like nothing of what she feels actually is. And that's because it's not. The human brain is programmed to know and feel its own body parts. So when they are taken away, it still thinks they are there even when they're not. This is called phantom limb, and seems to be a side effect of the experiments. After Riley's experiment, she was put inside a room similar to the one she had at the orphanage. But now, everything was nailed down. They wouldn't want the experiments hurting themselves, now would they? Riley explains how writing this entry was difficult because of her hands. She wonders what the purpose of it was if she's just going to sit in a room alone. Riley then notes what's important to her in this moment as a confused bigger body. Waking up from this nightmare, getting out, and getting back to being herself. Why? Because she would start to feel like life again before this happened. It's clear that even after this horrific event, she still has hope. Like I said before, hope is all she really had. But she also remembers who she was, and this is important later on. The fourth journal entry is Riley's perspective on the hour of joy. The room she was in started moving. She was scared. Something happened. Everything was upside down. A hole was blown in her room, but outside was loud. There was screaming everywhere. So she decided to wait it out because she felt safe in her room. Not even an hour later, things were quiet. So she went outside the room to see what happened. Then Riley notes, "There are bodies everywhere. Piles and piles, they look like me." Riley was describing the aftermath of the hour of joy. After calming down, she went out to see if anyone was around. There was a man inside a construction vehicle. She tried to bang on the glass to get his attention, but this didn't work. He wasn't moving. This person was dead. So Riley returned to her room. The fifth note is the last time we will hear from Riley. She notes where she is, in the prison, and wonders why she's there if she's done nothing wrong. After all, they forcefully made her into a toy and put her into the cell. She didn't ask for any of this. She mentions there being hundreds, even thousands of others out there. How could this happen? This was Riley reflecting on the events leading up to that moment. There was no food, only the bodies, and she refused to eat them. Then, Riley decided to do something that truly showed who she really was as a person, even after the experiment. The train was what took everyone in and out of the prison. The dead conductor had a key for this train. Riley decided to take the key and put it where no one could find it, to make sure that no one else could get there. She didn't know how little or how much her life mattered, but this one act would make it matter more than she would ever know. By hiding the key from anyone else, she might be able to save someone. Anyone, even if it was just one person. To Riley, that would be enough. No one else should have to hear or see what she had witnessed. Nobody should ever have to experience hell like this or the demons that live there. Riley then notes what's important to her one last time. It's important that she helps someone the way she wanted to when she thought she was being adopted. It's important that her life mattered to someone. Why? So she knows that after her death, that she fulfilled a little of what she said she would, to help others. She wanted to make life just a little bit better for someone else, even if this place, Playtime Co., took everything. Riley would ultimately take the train key and presumably ingest it. If it's inside of her, no one else can get to it when she's alive. But her survival wouldn't last long, as she died doing exactly what she wanted, to help others and save a life by hiding the key. Her cause of death is unknown, and this is when we come across her to retrieve the key. There's blood everywhere and she looks to be torn apart, so maybe one of the other experiments found her and killed her because she wanted nothing to do with hurting others. Or she just died of starvation and her body has been decaying over the years. Either way, Riley died knowing her life mattered. The story of Riley might be the most fascinating, yet tragic story we have ever seen in the franchise. It's a shame it only comes from notes, but I think it adds to the sadness. These notes are all we have left of Riley. Everything, including her own life, was taken from her. The story also shows growth as a character. She came into her new life at Playtime Co. scared of what her future held. But hope is a powerful tool. And with hope, Riley was able to become happy again. She matured, wanting to help other kids like herself when she grew up. She wanted to do good, so her and her parents' lives mattered. But of course, Playtime Co. ripped this away from her. They turned her into a monster and left her to rot inside of a cell with no explanation. However, this is what makes Riley so special. She never lost hope. She hid the key in hopes to save a life. By doing this, she helped someone like she always wanted to, and above all, Riley's life mattered. What do you think of Riley and her story? It's pretty deep, and it's really good writing from the creative team at Mob. I really like side characters like this that play a small role but have a huge impact. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like horror game content like this, please consider subscribing. Also, I just made a Discord server, so if you want to chat with me, I recommend joining. And if you want to support the channel more, you can become a member. Don't forget to follow my Twitter at TerrifiedT. Thanks for watching.